Hi, Stephen. How you doing? Thanks so much for kicking things off here. So I want to take a look here. I'm going to address your writing first. So introduction, testing summary, test analysis, beginning stages, completing the graphics. Yes, I wanted to mention that completing the graphics for the app. Now, as you complete the graphics for the app, you'll be using different design elements, color choices, typeface choices, etc., etc. And what I recommend is you just take all of those design elements and transpose them right into your process book, so there's a high degree of harmony between the actual depiction of the digital screens themselves sharing the same design elements as the design attributes associated with your process book. Okay, it's a large file. I get a little confused right here. Okay, so you said a couple of things. Now, yesterday you had mentioned, or in the discussion board, I think you had mentioned that you decided to use instead of a paper prototype, you're actually using a clickable prototype, and that's fine. I mean, I've got no problem with that at all, as long as you understand the caveats associated with delivering user testing via a digital format as opposed to delivering first stages of user testing in a paper prototype. Nonetheless, a prototype, you're going to gather your information with that prototype. Now, what I'm seeing here is that you've got a couple of images of the prototypes going on here. I think that we have, this is a paper prototype, and then over here seems to be more of a digital prototype with a paper. I'm not sure exactly what that image is depicting, but the point is I don't see the video. You said you had embedded a video of user testing, which I think is a great idea, but I'm not seeing that video in the presentation. It says the video of the user testing can be rather large, is a rather large file. Oh, wait a second. Oh, yeah, the video for user testing is a rather large file, even with compressing it, because an interactive peak being only viewable in Adobe Acrobat, also in interactive PDFs. Okay, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to hold this off right now. I'm going to download this because I'm viewing this PDF in Chrome. So let me just download this. Hang on one sec. Yeah, so exactly what I thought. This has to be downloaded. It won't work from the actual. It won't work from the Chrome page. So you have to download this and open it in Acrobat. You're exactly correct. Otherwise, if we go, you don't even get the cursor change to indicate that that is an active area. So do you see what I'm saying? So the reason I bring that up is because you may want to indicate, go back here and edit your post and say, in order to see the videos, you'll have to download, view in Acrobat Pro, and possibly update your Flash player. Just a little caveat there, because you may get comments just like mine that say, hey, I can't see the videos, etc. Okay, so, but at any rate, really great job here. These videos are fantastic. Let me jump over to.
So on that first screen,
These
just
are
pretend
great.
like your user and password are
It'd be
already
nice
in
to
there.
have a
So
play
where would you
button
go?
here, because right now to disable this content, you have to right click and say disable content to turn it off. But these are just great. I love this. One recommendation in this user testing session right here is don't describe and explain. Just leave basic questions. Okay, so where would you go to find the newsfeed? Okay, and that's it. And have them look at the screen and don't prompt them into the right direction. All of your caveats, like, okay, this screen will be scrollable later, you can set that up all at the beginning of the user test, just so that the testing subject knows what to expect, therefore isn't like kind of confused or stopping midstream to grasp elements that are part of the planned part of the app that aren't necessarily depicted in the wireframe. Okay, I hope that makes sense. So yeah, great job, Stephen. I love it, man. I love it. I think this is fantastic. Okay, so let's go ahead and jump to the presentation itself. Now, I had left a couple of things in the course announcements last week about what I recommend. And the recommended are the statement of intent, definition of the problem, app solution proposal, functions and features, influences, mind maps. Influences and mind maps are something that could be considered to be supplemental. But research findings, competitive, and in next week's announcement, welcome to week 4, I'm going to have a list of recommended a list of recommended topics for inclusion in the process book, and I'm going to have the absolute bare minimum requirements. But at any rate, so we have comparative analysis. I want to talk about yours in 1 second. Target audience, persona, scenario, storyboards of scenarios, task flow, sitemaps, wireframe, sketches of all screens, et cetera, et cetera. So if you want to take a look at that list of recommended topics, go ahead and take a look at the Welcome to Week 3 announcement, and then to compare those with the minimum requirements, go ahead and take a look at the upcoming Welcome to Week 4 announcement. So that said, I want to talk a little bit, let's jump to your competitive analysis, because I think that's something we want to address first. Competitive analysis right here. Wait a second, where the heck are you? Is your competition? There it is. Okay, battlefield competition. So here I would like you to take the three. If you take 2 or 3 competitors, okay, instead of just kind of grouping them and deciphering the pros and cons and the general basic attributes, I would like you to. I think it would really make a lot of sense if you were to construct your competitive analysis to include pros and cons of the following 3 elements of functionality and features, visual design, and usability. Okay, that way you're actually looking at individual competition and saying, okay, based on these 3 criteria, these are my findings. Okay, then take a look at the second competition and say, okay, based on these 3 criteria, and again, that's the pros and cons, including the functionality and features, the visual design, and the usability. And I think that'll really, really point to research there, and I think that'll be an advantageous addition to the presentation here. Let's go through the general presentation. I think it's time to start designing, as you said. Adding color, I think, and images, I think, is a really, really good. And I know you're saving that for last, Stephen. I get that, and I'm fine with that. But just as long as you understand, this is design, so this does need to be designed. One thing, I love the headline area. I think that's fantastic. One thing I would recommend, though, is to ungroup your folio information from the actual information here. So instead of saying concept, I mean, I think it's okay to give the headline concept, but I either separate theirs, give a space between that line and the page number, because right now it's just really ambiguous. It's really, really cramped up in there, and I just think that could be a little bit more expeditious in terms of presentation. Okay, so then we have what to do. App features, I would recommend writing this out as opposed to bullet lists. It's not required, it's recommended. But I think, again, that would give a little bit more of a thorough description. What's in a name? Now, don't forget, now you're talking about the importance of the name, you're giving some examples. Don't forget to include the final name for your app here. Now, one thing I just thought of is when you're developing your logo for this page, that my dogs, there must be some squirrels outside or something. I'm sorry if you can hear those dogs in the background. But at any rate, as I was saying, when you develop your logo, now you're going to start developing and applying the colors from your logo and a graphic style from your logo to not only your app, but also the design elements of the process book. And then don't forget, on this page, you're going to want to include the final name for target audience. This isn't necessarily a definition of your target audience. This page I would call research, okay? Because you're naming demographics for these are just demographics for your user group. Okay, these are also demographics for you, who's viewing, time well spent. These are all research. They're not necessarily a target. What you would do is oh, wait a second, here we are. Oh, never mind. This is a little confusing because you've got your target audience for the app right here, okay? And you describe why. That's great, but this should be, I think this would be called research. And then you have the target audience. So you could feasibly have 2 pages here, one called research and the next called target audience, where you're defining your target audience based on the research of the users. Okay, then who are they? Boy, Stephen, I would recommend you do 1 per page here instead of 3 pages. 1 persona per page. That way you can add graphics. You can add an really interesting way of presenting instead of jumbling. To me, this is all jumbled up into 1 page. I mean, I think that there's too much here to really allow. Are you familiar with Hick's Law? Hick's Law says that everything you add to a specific competition takes away from what's already there. And if you think about it, that's exactly what's happening right here. If we were to take this persona right here and establish it on 1 page, then the viewer is concentrated on that 1 persona and is gathering information, creating meaning based on that specific presentation of the persona, as opposed to having this phenomenon of Hicks' law saying, okay, I've added Kimberly and Nate to Evan's page, so that's taking away from the impact of Evan. Okay, does that make sense? Also, these are low resolution images. You can see some compression artifact around here. You can see some pixelization here, and also this one's really blurry. So I recommend high resolution images in the persona page. Okay, scenario, great. Love that presentation. Good job. Battlefield, again, I talked about that in terms of building blocks. Great page. The flow, absolutely great. Wireframe sketches and wireframe digitals. That's just fantastic. Paper prototype, again, this is not oh, wait a second. That's the wrong page. Okay, paper prototype, that's great. So you're showing that image is really blurry, and you may include a couple other paper prototype images. That's up to you. I know you did your actual user testing with digital, so just think about that. Okay, so how does it work? Great page, prototype test. Love this, love this. I would say somehow maybe indicate that, I'm trying to think of how you can do this. I don't know for sure if you can add a play, pause, and stop button to an embedded video in this MP4 that's embedded in the InDesign document. I'm not positive, but at the very least, you may want to include something right here that says, click me on the video. Please use Adobe Acrobat or something like that, and also to say right click to disable, because you say right click. If I start this,
so on that first
okay,
screen,
the only way to
just
stop it
pretend
is to
like your
right click
user
and
and
say
password
disable
are
content.
already
Right, so you may include that right there. Otherwise, we get this
so on that first
weirdness
screen,
where we
just
go to
pretend like your user
different
and
pages,
password are already
and
in
that's
there.
still
So where
playing.
would you
You
go?
see what I'm saying? So you may want to
Yep.
include that. Okay, then we have prototype analysis. This is maybe one of the most important pages in the whole presentation. So this really needs to be detailed. This is fantastic. Describe your prototype analysis, and of course, describe so apply, describe what your experience is, what the user experiences was, their comments, and how that was applied to the redesign or the next iteration of the prototype. Okay, all right, 12 minutes, didn't want to do that, but I'm just trying to be as thorough as I can. So really great job, really great job. So let's start getting our design elements in place and address the comments that I had mentioned in this video, and we're off and well on our way. Great job. Thank you very much.